Hi folks, you're with us today at your Pushback channel, and thank you for joining this audio live stream. In this essay, I'd like to talk about when a virtuous mob, when the high passion and the fevered imaginings of the virtuous mob sort of get together, they won't accept or tolerate any sort of outliers or any dissent or any that are just not completely conforming. And once this path is embarked upon, this virtuous, this fevered, passionate, virtuous things embarked upon, it's kind of hard to unwind it and to get people to say, hey, hold on a minute. And now, one of these recent examples was say the hockey players in Canada, where the management have demanded or insisted the players wear LGBTQ or transgender armbands or whatever virtue signaling thing it is at the moment. And some players, not very many, as I understand, like just a few, didn't agree with it. They had, they personally disagreed with it. They're not against anything or opposing it. They just not against anyone, rather, or opposing anything. They just don't agree with this crazy virtue signaling. And that, as you can imagine, created a torrent of abuse from hockey management and the media. Political folks were jumping in to dump on these people who had committed no crime. Now, if somebody said, well, you've got to wear a MAGA armband, and if you don't, you're going to be in trouble, then there would be screams from all over the place about they've got rights. What about their rights? They don't have to. You can't make them do it. They've got rights, human rights. But when it's the other way around, no, you've got to fucking do it. Otherwise, you are Hitler. You are a fucking Nazi if you don't wear that transgender armband. Now, I just want to talk a little bit about the mob, and I mentioned this before. This is an experience I had as a kid, and it's something that sort of stuck with me. And I've mentioned it in I think another video, but I had to sort of sit down and beat my brains out trying to remember the details, because it was a while ago, of what happened to me. So I get this. So I get this job, still at high school, and I get this job over the summer holidays. I'm like 14 or 15, something like that. And when I get this job at this warehouse, there's an industrial centre, maybe 40 minutes on the bus away from where I live, and there's a lot of light industrial, and there's a lot of things like warehouses and depots, things like that there. So there's a lot of work for someone, just doing grunt work, lifting cartons and shifting pallets, that sort of donkey work. So anyway, I got a job doing that, and there was this quite large warehouse, and it had like a decent sized office attached, and so there's a lot of girls, the women there, like as clerks and that sort of thing. So anyway, I was only there for 4 weeks. Okay, it's just over the summer holidays, and I'm again still a kid at school. And if I was 15, I probably just turned 15, I think. But anyway, so I'm there, and it turns out one of the guys who works there, I think he was like the guy on the door or something, and he was definitely a senior citizen, and he died the week before. This is the week before I started. So I didn't know him, I never met him, and didn't know anything about him, but everyone had decided to. The place was quite unionized, and everyone decided to wear a black armband for the week because this guy died, and anyway, I think the human resources manager, or whoever, the human resources officer or whatever it was, had said they didn't have any more bands left, or they'd run short. So anyway, I had no intention of wearing one. I wasn't really involved one way or another. I took the view that, as I didn't know the guy and hadn't met the guy and didn't know anything about it, he died before I arrived, I sort of took the position it was none of my business. Boy, was I wrong. So somebody, somebody not much older than me, probably not, about my age, young girl said, why aren't you wearing, hey, Billy Bob, why aren't you wearing an armband? So I said, well, I don't know. They didn't give me one. But anyway, I don't even know who it is that wearing the black armband for. I never met him or spoke to him. I don't know anything about him. It happened before I arrived. I'm only here for a few weeks, so I kind of, it's not my business to wear an armband. No, I'm one of these people. And there's something of you that I even hold today that I wouldn't go to somebody's funeral unless I knew them. Or unless I was, related to somebody who knew them, that type of thing. So I sort of believe that if you're going to celebrate someone's life or remember them in their death, in this case, that you need to have had some sort of relationship or some sort of connection with them. You knew them or spoke to them, or they were your relative's wife or husband, or something. So I had no connection with this guy. So I said words to that effect, at least, but I could see it didn't go down very well. And I recall the young girl coming back with something like, well, whoever the guy's name was, Bill, Bob, or Harry or something. I said, why do you hate Harry? Well, I don't hate Harry. I've never met him. How can you hate someone you haven't met? So, and I was sort of a little surprised at the tone and the manner of that I was committing somehow a crime. She stalks off, full of attitude, comes back with the union representative, someone else. I don't know what they're doing, but they're other than her, the two other people are adults, and being a kid and coming from quite a strict family sort of thing, I was I've been taught to respect my elders and all that sort of thing. So I was sort of apologetic and was blushing as a kid. And I said, look, I didn't know the guy. I've never met the guy. Why would anybody wear the black armband if they didn't actually know him? Doesn't matter. But the way they approached me, the vehemence, the intensity of it, that you are a moral, you're a Nazi. You are morally lower than shit. And we are the morally superior. We are telling you what you must do. Unless you do what we say, then you are still morally lower than shit. And you can't not do what we say. We're all doing it, so you have to do it. And I was sort of quite shaken up by this. They were, really giving me the third degree, and I thought, well, why? And I still couldn't get it. I kept saying, look, I don't know the guy. I've never met him. That doesn't matter. And they were, the look on their face that I'd committed some crime, worse. Mass murder was nothing compared to the crime I'd committed, and they were really letting me know it. And you better put on a black armband or else. And so anyway, I went to the lady in human resources and said, look, I'm getting some stick over this black armband business, and I was quite shaken up by the vehemence and intensity, the threats that you've really done something really bad, and we're going to make sure you pay for it, motherfucker. You're not going to get away with this, and the finger pointing and getting in my face and the whole thing, and it was all women, by the way. So I went to the HR lady. Look, I need a black arm. I've got to get these guys off my back. And I was prepared to wear the armband, not because I wanted to. I consented, but I could see it as the only way to get these people out of my face and to calm things down. So and I think that's why a lot of people go along with wearing rainbow this or transgender that, or fucking LGBTQ plus such and such is simply to get the screaming, baying mob, whether it be the Twitter mob or the media or something, to get these people out of their face and off their backs. It's like a quick way of shutting everyone up. And why? I don't care type is the attitude. Look, I'll wear it if it'll just shut you guys up. And I sort of had that view as best I can remember at the time. Anyway, they didn't have any black armbands, so they said, no, we've run out and we don't have any. We'll get some more in a few days. And they were doing this black armband thing for the whole week. So, and I was getting all around, wherever I walked, people said, "Why aren't you wearing the armband?" And I thought, "Holy fuck." I don't think at the time, I don't think I'd ever been treated in such a way that you're a bad person. And when you're that age, again, strict family and all this sort of thing, respecting your elders, you can't really, your reasoning power isn't up to it. And you can't really fight back for fear that you might sort of inflame the situation further and disadvantage your own position even further. And I didn't want to lose my job or something like that. Again, it was only for a few weeks, but that sort of money, the money I'd make there was going to go into buying the latest rock and roll records and albums and it was going to go into shit like that. So anyway, so I came away from the human resources thing, and I thought she would tell them, look, we haven't got any more black armbands, and I thought they would know, so I didn't pursue it any further. Next thing you know, moments later, the same in-your-face deputation arrives with this, "You motherfucker, you low Nazi motherfucker." I mean, the intensity of the whole thing, that you're such a bad person. And I said, well, I went to see the HR lady, and she said there's no more armbands, but she'll try and fix up some in the next few days. So they looked at me like, "You lying fuck, you lying fucking Nazi." So that nose is in the air, went with the righteous indignation, just spilling out in all directions. They marched off with righteous and purposeful stride to the HR thing. Now the HR, where I was there, you went up these stairs up into like a mezzanine level, and there's HR there, and they all, the three of them, went in there and decided they were going to stick it up the HR lady. And as I recall, she'd been around and wasn't someone to be, wasn't going to take any nonsense from anybody. And so it turned into quite a bit of a ding dong. Her view was really parroting what I'd said. Look, he wasn't even here when the guy died. He doesn't know him. Why are you bothering so much about him? And by the way, why haven't you got an armband? So that again, the HR lady was more than capable of looking after herself, and insults were exchanged and harsh language and all that sort of good stuff. Well, best as I could hear from the part open door. So the deputation stormed out, but it kind of got me off the hook. I wasn't the evil person anymore. I was only like partially evil at that point. So, but at least they weren't getting in my face, and I was able to say to anybody who asked me. But it's amazing how quickly sort of word gets around in those sort of places, particularly amongst the women, not so much the men, particularly amongst the women, that somehow everyone in the place seemed to know that I was the bad guy for not wearing the armband, and that meant that I was a callous Nazi and this sort of thing. And I thought, holy fuck, what a place. And I was, even as a kid, I was thinking, well, what, the management of this place is pretty piss poor. Firstly, they're not stopping this in what my view, even as a kid, was this outrageous misbehaviour and intimidation of an innocent staff member. But they were to allow this sort of attitude or culture to be all pervasive. That there had to be the dry tinder there already for it to go up in flames so quickly like this. The structure had to be there for this to get such a quick and perfect takeoff. And so I, as a kid, as I say, I sort of was quite concerned about that, and made a little mental note that in future I wouldn't ever tolerate that in any workplace that I might be in charge of. And true to my word, whenever I saw that sort of nonsense coming up, I'd jump all over it, not having it. And just to illustrate this, I was CEO at this sort of, wasn't a big company. I don't know, there's probably 220, 230 people in it. And we were in a building, quite a large building, office building. And on one of the floors, it was alleged that there was a brothel being run. Now, I wouldn't be surprised if there was really, but it was, it wasn't anywhere near where we were, where our office was. It was on another floor at the other end of the building, and but anyway, so it came up as an issue that some of the people in the buildings, nearly all women, by the way, I think it was all women, wanted to have these people, this alleged brothel, thrown out. And I don't think it had been proven or anything at the time, but so they, being the biggest office in that particular building in terms of square foot and all that sort of thing, in terms of the voting rights, if you like, for the whole building, whole office block, we had something like 40%, for example, of the voting rights, so our vote was pivotal. As some of the other smaller offices, because we were on the ground floor and had the large square footage, we got a higher proportion of voting rights, whereas people with similar square footage but on upper floors, they didn't have as many, in percentage terms, voting rights as we did. We had most of the parking lot as well. Anyway, so the women in the building were saying, we want these people out, and they wanted to run them out as if they were like some old Wild West thing. We're going to run you out of town. If you're not out of here by sundown, we're going to come and get you. So they just want to run out of that. That's it. Finish. Run out of town. Nothing to talk about. Get rid of these people. And the women because I didn't go one way or another, and some of the people in the other offices came to me and said, will you vote to get rid of these people, because your vote will be critical. And I said, well, I don't really want to buy into this. Do we have absolute evidence that it is a brothel? And are they breaking any law? Are they are they breaking the terms of their lease, as in conducting a business that's not condoned under the law, and so on. So I looked at it from a legal point of view, that if they're breaking the law, or if people are shooting up in the hallways or something, sure, but there needs to be law breaking and illegality before I'm prepared to go in any direction. And the women in the building weren't satisfied. They instantly accused me of using the brothel for sexual services, which was an outrage, and I didn't take kindly to that. So then they got in the ear of the women that were working in my office, and I had a deputation of women turn up in my little cubby hole in that office and say, well, look, because of these people are running a brothel, then that makes people may think that we're prostitutes, and therefore we want them out in order to protect our good name. And looking at some of the women in the deputation, nobody would ever confuse them as prostitutes. Nobody, under any circumstance, would ever confuse these people as prostitutes. None of them. Quite apart from their age and the way they looked and the way they dressed, they definitely were not prostitutes. Now, I without doubt, there's all the people working in the alleged brothel were young women who were in reasonably fit and were wearing sexy outfits, short dresses, the heels, that sort of stuff. So I must say it did look suspicious, but again, I wasn't prepared to. Now, I tried to explain to these women who came as a deputation, saying, look, I understand what you're saying there, but what you're asking me to do is, without evidence, is to run these women out of this business, which I think was all women. You got to run this business out of town, and just because they're doing things I don't agree with or don't like. So just think about that for a minute. What happens if someone turns on you because they don't like you, and without evidence they run you out of town? They say, well, you're a bank robber, and they do. What would you like it if that same moral rectitude, that righteousness and that mob sort of thing was turned against you? You wouldn't like it, and therefore, why would you want me to be part of this process of trying to run these people out of the office building just because I don't like what they do, or don't approve of what they do, or don't agree with what they do, when they actually have broken no law. And they sort of pondered that for a minute. A couple of them were unhappy with that, and again, accused me of, well, that's only because you're using them. Well, what do you have? Do they give you free fucks or something? Is that it? And I thought, hey, don't do that to me. Don't fucking talk to me like that. So I made I took the thing, if they've broken the law and so on. So that's one thing. But just because I don't like what they do, I'm not prepared to run them out of the thing. And the women tried to organise in my office, tried to get together as like a cabal to sort of try and morally force me to do it. So look, we're not going to shut up. We're not going to stop pestering you. We're not going to get out of your face until you do what we want. Now, the situation is different. I'm not a 14, 15-year-old kid anymore. And I'm more than capable of taking them on if they want to fight. No, I didn't want it either. I don't need the aggravation. I don't want to lose experienced staff. I don't want to lose people that otherwise may do a decent job. But I wasn't prepared to accept mob rule on some sort of obscure moral point where there was no proof or evidence. I wasn't going to allow it to happen. And part of the reason for that was remembering that black armband bullshit from when I was a kid. And I ended up staring them down and saying, no, I'm not going to vote against it. You bring me the illegality and I'll think about it. And I spoke to the building manager or the owner of the building, and the management contractor, and they were pretty neutral on it as well. So look, these people pay the rent on time. They're not contradicting any of the lease agreement or the terms of the agreement. They haven't broken any laws. We actually did inquire with the local police, and they don't believe any action is warranted, and so on. So we're going to let it go, and that, which was my position, and so that was it. Now, as it turns out, the people that had that, and it probably was a brothel actually, they had the they sort of realised the enmity and the attitude against them in the building, so they moved off to a location that I think would have been more suited to their business anyway. But that's it. So the mob thing, it is possible to stare the mob down, but you got to have the moral courage to do it. And maybe if I hadn't had that black armband experience when I was a kid, but what we need out of our political class today, which we won't get because they're all globalist controlled and everything, is the backbone to stand up to the mob and say, no, fuck you. And until that happens, we're going to have to tolerate the silliness all the time. You've been a Tacitus today at your Pushback channel. Thank you for listening.